So here's a question. Have you ever wondered why in social care siblings are separated when they go into adoption? I mean, before I became a social worker, I was always curious and disturbed. Let's not play it down. I was so disturbed when we have to, as social workers, or why would a social worker put one sibling in Manchester and another in London? Why would they do that, right? When they belong together. Now let's make it even more complex. You know, you've got siblings that are separated by a year and a half, and they're connected, they love each other. Then why would we have them go into separate adoption or fostering placements? And it wasn't until I became a social worker that I realized how complex it was. So I had a long chat with my manager today, and we looked at some of the reasons why that happens. And I'm going to give you two reasons, maybe three or four. We'll try and squeeze in three or four, okay? So reason number one is because, number one, adopters might be looking for just one child, and the children have been in foster care way too long. Remember, foster care is a temporary option. It's not a long-term option for young children. And so if we've got two children, say, even if they're twins, okay, they might say, we are looking for a girl. And then you have to discuss, well, we've got legal timeframes to get this done by. So how do we proceed? Do we just hold off until somebody who says, yeah, I want two, I want a boy and a girl, or twins or whatever? We have to wait for that. Bear in mind, foster carers are extremely short, and so are adopters. The system is begging for people to go into adoption. And when there's none, if someone comes up and they'll say, we'll take one, then you might argue for, let's go for the one. You've got a situation where, for example, one child has, or one of the two has learning needs and the other doesn't. And so if you try to get them adopted together, then the chances of both of them being adopted are extremely slim. And so what we might do is say, well, let's have them separated so that at least one of them goes into stability at the soonest opportunity, whilst we wait for someone who's willing to take on a child with learning or behavioral needs. Now, we have to remember that children with behavioral needs, when it comes to adopters, you're asking an adopter to say, take on this child as their own, but spend the rest of their lives catering for a child that's going to present challenges. There's not many adopters that want to do that. Some do, some don't. Usually they will take them if they've got some a propensity or predisposition to learning needs and they're very young children, then some adopters will say, we'll work it out and we're willing to do it. But a lot of adopters are like, we just want a normal child, normal in quote, right? We want a normal child. Now that's complex. Why is it complex? Because sometimes you have two children who are close in age, from the same family, and they are victims of significant or severe neglect, meaning it was so bad that no matter what social services offered, the parents couldn't pull it together and provide that environment for their children. And but we mustn't assume that just because parents are addicted to drugs, or the home environment isn't kept well enough, or because of the domestic violence, that the parents hate the children. Sometimes they have a very good emotional connection to their children, but the risk of harm is imminent or significant. And so social services will always intervene at that point. This isn't a discussion as to whether you think they're right or wrong. I'm sure some people will come on this post and say social services are this and that. That's not the point of this discussion. The point is to understand the complexity as to why siblings are separated. So when we have two children, as I was talking about the complexity, when we have, say, for example, 2 or 3 children who are closely connected to each other, it's hard because they're going to be thinking, why was you taken away from me? So they'll even enter into their adult lives wondering why they were separated. Where's my sister going? Why can't I be with my sister or brother? And they will find out when they're, I think, 18 upwards. But I think the process now is that we gradually break the information to them a bit younger, so that it's easier for them to process over time. And then there was a case where I was told today where a parent knew where the children would be one of the two children was his, and we wanted to adopt them together, which is always the first want or desire for a child. But one of the parents said, I will always go and make way to my child. I'm going to always see them no matter what. I'm going to turn up at the door where they're being looked after, and so we have to separate them. Now, of course, the person who told me that story said that parent was a selfish, which messed up the children, because now they're separated. The children were close, but now they're separated because the parent was selfish, saying, I don't care what happens, I'm going to see my children. That makes it complex. And so this is it for social workers as well. Social workers are going to build bonds with children. They're going to see them weekly for months at a time whilst the case is being heard in court. And they're going to put them in their placements. They're going to take them from the homes that they were in. They would have, before all of that, tried to work with the parents sometimes to say, look, we've got to do something about this. Sometimes it could be one of the parents, that the parents are in a domestically violent relationship, and one of the parents won't take the adequate steps to protect the children. And the foster carer sometimes comes as a savior and has that connection with the children, puts them somewhere safe, visits them regularly, does really meaningful work with them, and then has to make the decision to split them up. That is traumatic as a social worker. I don't care who you are. But I also want to talk about the parents a little bit. Not every parent is evil or horrible or intentionally neglectful. A lot of parents who are unable to look after their children are just simply that, unable to look after their children, and it's reflected as neglect or emotional harm, sometimes physical harm. And that's why some children, no matter what we are taking them from, they still love their parents, because for them, their parents love them. And that's real, and I believe that. Not to mention that the children will sometimes have a level of separation trauma, and we are going to watch that, and they're going to go through that. And some of you listening to this post will have gone through that, and I can only take my hat off to the fact that you've made it this far. I don't know what that feels like, but I can say that you're a survivor. Survive as best as you can every day, because some people are so traumatized when they go into the system that their lives are just off course, and look at the statistics on self-harm, alcoholism, drug abuse, and so forth, as a result of being taken out of their families. Adopters, what we're asking adopters to do is really kind of change their lives to cater for a child or two. It's complex because adopters, they're putting their lives forward. We can't ask really more of them. And foster carers, they don't know what they're getting, but they've altered their lives with the potential that their lives will be altered significantly, catering to the needs of children who they may reject them their whole fostering lives. I remember before I was a social worker, I used to think that it was crazy that we would do such a thing to children, but actually the ultimate aim is that we keep them together. It's easier, it's better for them, but when they're separated, it's horrible, unless it's probably the best thing anyway, but it's hard to watch. And that's this is a day in the life of a social worker post. It's complex, So I'm sure that some of you listening to this post will have gone through this, and by all means leave your comments. But what we want to do is be a bit more educational on this platform. I do get that some people will rant and curse at social workers. You hate our guts, I get it, but I would love to know your views on some of the things that I've suggested, and I'm not asking for any favor. Don't be nice, be yourselves. I'm not asking for anyone to agree with me. It's just information. I hope it makes sense, and ask any questions you want. By the way, I get a lot of DMs every day. I can't answer them all, but I get a lot of DMs and I get a lot of comments. I can't answer to them all, unfortunately, because I'm famous. But I will say, keep your comments coming, because keep the discussion live. I'm really trying to bring social care to the people so that they understand what we go through as social workers, health workers, youth workers, and service users. I want everyone to know, because it's something that needs to just have a bit more light on it, just like this car.